Hello everyone, welcome back to Weaving Web3. We are live at ETH Warsaw and I'm here with Sandra, comms lead at Cogito Finance. So what is Cogito and why should we be excited about it?
Yes, thanks for having me. So Cogito Finance is essentially tokenizing various traditional financial assets, right? Which is a very hot topic right now when you think
Absolutely.
about RWAs, right? It's making waves, especially that treasuries passed the 2 billion mark, right, on chain.
Absolutely.
So that is a really big accomplishment. It really shows how the crypto world is accepting these assets into its ecosystem. So the reason why, for example, I'm personally very excited about it is because we see the adoption of financial assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very growing space, but it's not just financial assets. They're going to be probably the first one
Yes.
to get like a
Adopted,
like significant relevance in the space. But we are talking about the very different asset classes that can be tokenized and can be used on chain to, as I always say, unlock utilities, right? But it's like a very cliche, buzzword with like unlocking utilities, but it is actually true.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very curious myself because, being in this space, you see a lot of elements, right? How everything plays out, what are the challenges, how people are solving them. And I'm really interested how it's going to evolve in the span of, let's say, 2 years, because the growth is exponential. Like when you see various types of assets, not just financial ones, and the amount of projects that are launching, this is like another significant KPI for seeing the growth. It's hard not to get excited.
Yeah,
You know?
I totally agree with you. I remember telling my friends real world assets, this is the kind of things that, like just the stuff that we have in traditional finance, we need it. And they're like, oh, no, we don't want that. But now it is something that's been an asset class for hundreds of years, right? And we absolutely need to adopt it on chain because it is stupid not to. And then it allows the legitimization of everything that we do, right? If people now start seeing, oh, we can have all these asset classes from traditional finance, but in a much more efficient and reliable way, transparency as well, then yeah, absolutely for it. So,
I mean, it has its challenges. It's
of
not
course,
like, a perfect
I was
world.
just about to ask you, what are the challenges, right?
Right. We actually, were discussing previously for example, the KYC nature of it all, because you have to balance the benefits of having an asset on chain with compliance, right?
Yes.
So, for example, not all RWAs are going to be securities, so it means that they would have to be KYC'd. But for example, in our case, they are KYC'd, and in a lot of other cases as well when it comes to bigger players. And so the problem begins when you look at unlocking these utilities, right, with DeFi protocols. When you want to actually use these tokenized RWAs as collateral in various protocols, then you are facing challenges as in DeFi protocols have to be ready to accept them. Yes. And the thing is that it puts more pressure on them to go ahead with actually talking with lawyers. How can they tackle it in a safe way, not to put any risk on them? It's already happening. We see DeFi protocols that are integrating RWAs as collateral, and they're doing like amazing. We can see how people are actually realizing that it is the future. But
100%.
then the element that is still very important is how different companies are tackling these, like whitelisted investors. If, for example, you are using, let's say, a tokenized T-bill as collateral somewhere, and your loan, and you can borrow against it, and you get liquidated, then who is the owner of your T-bill? Because it has to be somebody that was KYC'd and is whitelisted.
Yes.
So now, what is the process? And of course, again, different companies tackle that in a different manner. But again, if a protocol wants to work in their unique way, then they have to tackle it on their own. So a lot of options.
Yeah, and there's lots of obstacles they have to come. I guess for institutions, there's also a problem with MEV, right? You can have your assets that are regulated, but what happens when you take out that loan and then someone sees an opportunity to attack you? Where does could that come in play at some point?
I mean, that would be also the challenge that the DeFi protocol itself would have to face,
manage,
right?
Yeah.
And the question is like, what amount of monies are we talking about?
Yeah.
Because right now, for example, a lot of RWAs are institutional assets. Like, let's be honest, when it comes to T-bills, we're talking about very big AUMs, like asset under management. So the stakes are higher, right? So again, the risk management and the risk framework has to be very well, implemented. So yeah, definitely something for them to consider, because at this point it's about their mechanisms and not necessarily our assets being on the platform.
Okay, so where do you think Cogito Finance will place itself, like let's say in the next 6 months or like a year? How do you think the shifts in like mindsets? Because like personally, I know many people like, oh, I don't want to use places that sometimes KYC or institution because of regulation. People are scared of regulation, but there's some that are actually pro it. And I think there needs to be like a balance of it, right? But I know some people will not touch anything because they either have to dox themselves or KYC them. So how are you just going to be focusing on those kind of people that will happily KYC them, institutions and stuff like that, to get that mass adoption? Or do you think there should be some kind of hybrid model?
So if you think about it, you have various companies right now that are focusing, like us, on institutions or companies that are able to invest in our assets. Usually these are companies because of the legal requirements of, for example, investing with minimum of 100K, which is a very standard amount with being the case with a lot of other players as well. And the thing is that this is like one case, and the other thing is how you see the growth of the yield-bearing stablecoins that are catered. They are specifically for retail, and so the different companies that are tackling it in various ways. Like one based in France, they are essentially creating this whole tokenomics so that they are compliant and they can cater to the investors, the retail investors, and be a yield-bearing stablecoin, right? And they are backed by, as far as I know, treasuries, the U.S. treasuries. And so you have two different strategies, and how you can go about it is like it's just about strategizing your placement. In our case, we are focusing on these like institutions or companies, DAOs. But at the same time, we are enabling them to have access to various risk appetites when it comes to investment. So, as you know, like T-bills are risk-free assets, right? Very popular right now, which really makes sense because the interest rate environment is very attractive still. But we are shifting our focus by looking into corporate bonds, which we've been strategizing for some time now, because they're also they're medium risk return profile. So with that, this is also an attractive option because if the interest rate is going to drop, then we can expect the corporate bonds to be more attractive, right? And then, for example, when it comes to our more risky
appetite people,
exactly, then we have, for example, the X fund, which is essentially like AI managed portfolio of equities. Equities are really relatively risky, but the thing that is very interesting is that if you think about the kind of AI models, then it's easier, maybe not easier, but it's more reliable to train data on the traditional markets than crypto markets because of the amount of data that you can get and how crypto is very sentiment driven, and so it's really hard to actually see patterns for the algo. And so this compared to this traditional equities that are following relatively well the fundamental analysis, the technical analysis, you can see that the potential of implementing AI algos for that market is actually bringing onto investors the kind of the different yield source.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So this is also something that we are building right now, and we see demand for that, especially with how you have different market cycles and the demand changes for that kind of risk appetite. So trying to diversify the
that's a really important thing, right? When you said you're building out, when would people potentially be able to access? Is there like a test net for this, or will it just be launched one day and then you can use it?
I mean, so when it comes to our first product, the tokenized T-bills, they're on chain for quite a while on Ethereum, so investors can essentially onboard with us, right? And so when it comes to X fund, for example, because the difference between T fund, G fund, which is the corporate bonds, we are having one underlying asset. So these are funds that are passively managed. Then with X fund, you have actively managed fund. So that means that we have a lot of testing of the algo itself.
Yeah.
To actually see the performance of it. So we're currently building it with SingularityNet, which is our ecosystem partner. Yes. So we have a tremendous support with them. Ben being CEO of SingularityNet and co-founder of ours. Amazing support in terms of the vision and that kind of leading the AI development. So definitely something to look forward to. Especially that it's, as far as we know, there's no other
people,
no other products like X Fund, for example.
Oh, that's really exciting. So, if people watching this, maybe programmers, developers, institutions, what would you tell them? Why should they be on board, or why should they could they potentially build on top of you, or it be integrated? What would you like to be seen?
So we are definitely interested in, partnering with different DeFi protocols, because, as I mentioned, using RWAs as collateral is really important. So it's all about exploring how we can help them understand the realities. We're in talks with a number of them to see where we fit into their strategy, into their legal framework. And the risk framework, we already talked about this. Risk is very important. And so this is definitely something that we are exploring as of now.
Oh, that's really exciting. That's some really exciting stuff. Like, at the end of the day, I think we need to push forwards and stop being scared of some of the traditional finance stuff and actually embrace it, because it's been our life. And if we can make it let's say a better version of it, then absolutely for it.
Yeah, it's like blurring these
the two
borders.
lines. Absolutely.
So, for example, when you have those native lending protocols, for example, and then the crypto native, and for them to actually expand, they are expanding to other audiences as well when it comes to all investors. And this is really, really exciting if you think about how crypto went through this status quo and everything was like so gated.
You can't have this. No.
Yeah, like go away with traditional finance. We don't want it. And right now they are really emphasizing how it's all about actually blurring that line and having it both way. Crypto going to the mainstream finance, for example, and the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's
makes
a wonderful time to be in tokenization. To be honest.
Awesome. So just to kind of like round off, when we're sitting here next year, what would you have liked to achieve, or what would Cogito Finance have done?
Oh, that's an interesting question. In a year, a lot of things can happen in a year.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah, especially in crypto. I would say that definitely these product integrations, as in actually having, let's say, our T fund integrated in a lot of DeFi protocols, as I mentioned. I would definitely want to see, not from our perspective, but from a market perspective, more understanding when it comes to this institutional DeFi.
Yeah.
When it's actually coming, how these two puzzle pieces fit into this degen culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And for people to understand a little bit more how this KYC is not the obstacle, but it's like a bridge.
Yeah.
Just for you we have to be KYC when we were using Texas, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everything should be KYC'd, but we have to, be compliant and let's be open-minded.
I totally agree. So this has been such an interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to see what things will change, because I met you guys, like your founder, I think 2 years ago. Lots of different things have changed, and I'm really excited. So this has been Weaving Web3 with Cogito Finance. Thank you very much.